Good morning, one and all. I'm Abul Rajani from VBind Education Technologies, Mumbai. We bring industry experts live into the classroom. So today's masterclass is on software testing, and the master for today is Mr. Vishal Mundlye. He has been into software testing since a quite long time, and he has more than 10 plus years of experience into software industry. He has worked with Infosys before. He's been to US for a couple of projects. He is currently working with CitiusTech. It is a US based IT healthcare company. So without any further delay, I would like to call Mr. Vishal to take it over so that he can share his insights on how software testing could be the most promising and the most amazing career for the students. Thank you so much. Sir, take it over.
Sure. Thanks, Abul. Let me first share my screen and let me know if I'm visible. Are you guys able to view my screen?
Yes, sir, we can hear you and see the screen as well.
Okay, perfect. Hello, everyone, and thanks, Abul, for inviting me and for the introduction. My name is Vishal, and I'm in the industry for now last 10 years and all 10 years into software testing. I am here to walk you through the world of software testing, what all happens in the world of software testing, what all does it entail, how the testing process is done, what are the latest trends in software testing, and if you happen to choose the career, what all paths you can, explore. I have worked on, since last 10 years, I've worked on various applications, right from AS400 mainframe application, which was a character user interface, to the swanky looking MVC.NET applications, which are web-based applications, desktop applications. So a lot of them. Technologies wise, I have tested APIs, web services, database technologies. Currently, I'm heading a project which is business intelligence and data warehousing project. So I will start with the presentation.
Hello.
Yes, Abul.
Yeah. Just before you start, sir, I would just like to update you on the number of colleges and the names of the colleges, so that you know the kind of audience that you are dealing with. So the first college we have is Adeshwar College Technology from Venice. Another is Jain College of Engineering. We have JCEI Jai Hind College of Engineering. We have Karunya University. We have Shishadipuram College. We have SNJB College of Engineering Chinchwad, and that's about it. So we are expecting one or two more colleges to join us soon in next 5 minutes.
Okay, great. Hello to all of you. Thanks for joining. So let me know when you want me to start.
You may start, sir.
Okay, thank you. So we will first look into what is software testing. So software testing is ensuring or examining, testing, verifying, validating a software to see whether it conforms to the agreed specifications, the agreed requirements, the exact requirements. It does what it is intended to do and does not do what it is not intended to do. So with this, I mean, like whenever a customer or a user or the end user is using a software, he shouldn't be surprised with any of the workflows out of it, like unrequired screens, or say crashing screens, invalid messages or invalid pop-ups, things like these. So what does software testing reveal? The prime importance or the major reason behind testing software is to find bugs in it, then to improve the quality of the software, and to first of all determine the quality of the software and help improve it. Like, say if the software was first taking say 5 seconds, say it's our video conferencing app, and after connection, if it takes 10 minutes to load the video, then the quality of the software is not that great. So the development team, the quality assurance team will have to work towards making or reducing it. Say like the acceptable limit given by the client is after connecting, the software should load between 5 milliseconds. So that is what the accepted limit is, and that's how we adhere to the requirements. Having said that, testing does not mean that you'll have a 100% defect-free product. But what it assures is that the probability of unknown defects is less. Like the surprise element that I said, the surprise element of crashes or invalid messages. So this probability is reduced. That is what testing does. Moving on. Now, why test the software? It's pretty simple. The software is, the requirements are given by humans, us, like clients. It's developed by humans, used by humans. So, and we are not that perfect. So there is a chance or, a lot of probability of missing something. So that's the prime reason behind testing a software. Avoiding monetary losses. Like say, for example, you have a banking application or a trading application. Now, instead of, say if there are the calculation, say if you are placing a equities trade on the stock exchange and there are 3 fees, like a broker fee or a government fee and the transaction fee to the stock market. If the calculation misses the government fee, the government is obviously going to penalize the trading company. So that's one of the examples. Avoid loss of life. Now I am working in the healthcare sector. Now healthcare sector has various applications such as patient monitoring applications or patient records, electronic medical records applications. So say if somebody is going for a chemotherapy for cancer and he is expected to get a radiation of 100 rads, and say suppose he gets radiation of 200 rads, like the digit doubles. So imagine the loss of life or the problems the patient would face. Then coming on to the loss of time, it's pretty simple. The person using the end application, if it has some major defects, then he's going to waste his time doing his workflow. Like he spends his 5 minutes placing the trade, but the application crashes when he hits submit. So then he ends up calling the customer support and then gets his workflow completed. But that's again a waste of time for him. So that's one of the aspects. Now we'll move on to the software testing lifecycle. So when we say software testing lifecycle, it means the end-to-end operation or all the factors that are involved in testing a software, like the steps or the procedures or an algorithm kind of for testing software. The first one, now you could have gauged it, is the client. Everything starts from the client or placing a requirement. So once the requirement is entered or requirement is documented, the quality assurance team or developers, so they analyze the requirements, they inspect the requirements, and if there are any inconsistencies, they point out those inconsistencies or logical issues or something that is not so clear, not so apparent. So they try to highlight these things. We'll take an example of, say, this video conferencing app itself. Say suppose we are developing this video conferencing app, and the requirement from client is that it needs to work on web applications, or sorry, web browsers. It needs to work on desktop applications, and it needs to work on mobile applications. So these are the high-level requirements. Now, further breaking down, when you break down these requirements, it will also say that, say, in the web application, the conferencing app should work on Chrome browser, it should work on Firefox, it should work on Safari, it should work on Internet Explorer. So this is the way the requirements are broken down. So when the planning or strategizing happens, a senior person from the QA team, he determines, do we have all these environments or no? Like, do we have a Safari browser installed, or which version of Internet Explorer do we have? Then he estimates the effort involved. Like, say, for example, it will take 3 weeks to develop this video conferencing application, and the cost estimated. So factors like these. Now comes the test case creation. So you have something called as high level test cases and detail level test cases. So say a high level test case might be verify whether the video conferencing app works on Internet Explorer. Okay. And the detail level test case might be verify that the microphone functionality works well on the Internet Explorer on a Windows machine. Further, second test case might be that verify whether the uh, what do you call the video application works at 720p and 1080p on the I browser for Windows machine. So you have one high level test case and three detail level test cases. Like it's a breakdown structure. Then comes the important stage of test environment and data setup. So say, do we have the required resources for testing this? Now, as I said earlier, if we don't have Chrome browser or say I browser, say it's required to work on 4 I browsers, I7, 8, 9, 10. Out of that, we don't have 2 of them. Then the team needs to report it to the client, and we need to procure these environments. So that way, if suppose if the application is expected to work on like iOS and Windows OS, so then if we don't have Windows OS, then that will have to be procured. These factors are covered in this stage. Now comes the important stage of test execution. Test execution is where the QA team or they have the broken down structure. Like say if the team is of 3 members. Now one of the member is working on testing the Chrome aspect of it, whether it works on Chrome or not. The other QA member might be assigned with working or testing the requirement on I browser. The third one might be testing it for the Firefox browser. So this way the test execution happens. Now say if he observes that out of I7, 8, 9, 10, when you run the video conferencing app on I9 and 10, or say for example I7 and 8, then there's a lot of time lag between loading of the video. Say like in I9 and 10 it takes 5 milliseconds, but in I7 and 8 it takes 10 milliseconds to load. So that qualifies as a defect. So he will walk the developer through this defect. He will execute the whole workflow, switch on the application, turn on the camera, turn on the mic. He'll show the developer how much time it takes to load. Now, if you want to dig deeper in this, there are various automated tools also for finding out how much time it took for loading a certain application. So that way he logs a defect in any of the defect management tools or any tool that a testing team uses. So once the developer fixes this defect, then the QA member has to retest this defect. Now, and then he assures, now once all the I browsers load the video conferencing in 5 milliseconds, that's when the test case passes. So once all such test case passes, we come to the test cycle closure. Test cycle closure is where the QA engineer, he documents his test results, he documents his learning, he shares a sign-off that a sign-off means something that we are done with testing or whatever the agreed requirements were, we are done with it, and we are handing it over to you. So that's how the feedback loop is completed. The one that I mentioned earlier in the earlier slide, it creates a 360-degree feedback loop between the business, development, and quality assurance teams. Now, moving on to the types of testing. So there are various types of testing, such as graphical user interface testing. Like say, for example, you are developing an app for a salon. Now it might have a home page, a blog page, several articles published on the blog page. So you have to verify whether all of these all of these UI components like text boxes, it has a form for it. Like if you want to take an appointment with the salon, then it has a form of its own, like enter your name, your age, and what kind of haircut you want, or say what kind of a beauty treatment you want, what is the time of like what time do you need the appointment. So you will see on various websites web links, buttons, text boxes, images, radio buttons, type ahead drop downs for searches. So all of these, so ensuring that all of these work well. Like it shouldn't happen that you click on the submit and the form crashes, you know. You'll be left with again entering the form again, or say calling them personally. So that's not what you want. So that's what it involves. That is what is you do in graphical user interface testing. Now we come to the functional testing aspect. Like say I covered the example of banking application. Now banking application, or say a trading application, it might have a logic coded that once you add up the three fees, like the stock broker fee, the government fee, and the stock exchange fee, and you hit submit, it will calculate the entire amount and it will submit the trade. Now, instead of adding all the three components, if you just end up adding two of the components and say one of the fees is missed, so imagine the penalty levied on the stockbroker. So functional testing involves that you test this functionality. You know, you ensure that when you are submitting and when you see the successful result on the web page, it involves like it should add 10 plus 10 plus 10 and not just 10 plus 10. So that is what it means by functional testing. Uh, there, you must have observed various content management systems, or say workflow systems, that are used in larger organizations. With workflows, I mean that say it's an employee record web application. So right from when the employee joins, say whatever training he has undergone or whatever appraisals he has undergone, so it has workflows for its own, you know. So ensuring that all these workflows are tested, and none of them show any irregularities. So that is what is involved in functional testing. So you are actually testing the functionality. Now, when I say testing with invalid inputs, what I mean is that, say again in the video conferencing app, like if the requirement is that the browser, the video conferencing app should work only for i8, 9, and 10, and say the customer has i7, and when he launches this video conferencing app on i7, it says that it gives a random error message like invalid error. So now the user does not have information like why the system is not allowing him to video conference. So when we say graceful failure, it means that the requirements are thought in such a way that if the user is using an i7 or any incompatible browser for testing or for launching the application, it should give him a proper indicative message like please use i8, 9, and 10 and Chrome XYZ, you know, in such a easy way so that he understands. Now, moving on to database testing. So database testing is something that I'm presently connected with. So if you have to enter or store a data, say like the again employee ID and employee name, then whether you are storing the correct employee ID, whether you are generating the employee ID well, uh, there shouldn't be any miscalculations or say any incorrect employee ID or his name getting incorrectly stored, you know, because everywhere the same name will be reflected right from his ID card to his email. Then comes the format of the data. Like if it is expected that his first name should come first, it should be stored first, and the last name later. Or say when it is when you're operating out of US, it's usually the last name first and the first name after that. So it has to be as per the requirements. So moving on to when the data is validate whether the data stored is expected or unexpected. Like I cannot end up saving Neil Armstrong where Vishal Mundlye is expired or where Vishal Mundlye is expected. If I'm whether the data is normalized or denormalized. So with normalized and denormalized, we mean that there shouldn't be any like multiple values stored in the database in one cell or in one record. So it shouldn't be, say, for example, age of, say, a family member's age. So if there are 4 people in the family, you cannot store the age as 10, 20, 30. it has to be 10. In the second row, you'll store the name of the person and the age, 20. In the third row, third person's name and the age, 30. That is the normalization and denormalization. Now we come to the load test or stress test or performance testing. Again, say we go to our salon application or say a trading application. So in trading application, at a moment, there are thousands of users connected. Now, if the application, what is involved in performance testing is whether, uh, say, a acceptable limit of users, say like 100,000 users are permitted to transact in a given time frame. Like say per minute, the system can expect and accept 100,000 users. So this needs to be tested. It cannot happen that there are just 1,000 users logging in and the system is crashing, or becoming dead slow. So in this context, you must have observed a couple of years back, the application, our very own IRCTC application. So it took like ages to book a ticket. So that is when it had performance problems, or it had bottlenecks, because it accepts millions of tickets and books millions of tickets in a minute. So the application should be able to cater to these requirements. Now we come to the manual testing part of it. I'm sorry. In manual testing, what matters most is the user's understanding, the experience, his analytical abilities, his exploratory abilities. The GUI testing or the functional testing, database testing, all of these to a lot of extent can be done manually. There are several automation tools also for it. But what is important over here is the first round of testing has to be done manually. And then once the workflows are frozen and the expected results are documented, then you can think about automating these tests. Moving on to automation testing, use of specialized tools to perform repetitive tasks. So say, for example, in the trading application, so if we have to test equity trading or a bonds trading, so when we have a workflow established that you have entered, say, 7 parameters and then submitted the trade to the stock exchange. So once this test results checks out well, or it works well, say over a period of 2 to 3 months, you have tested this and it is working well. So then you kind of baseline your testing results. And once it is baseline, then you know that within 5 milliseconds or say within 5 seconds, you can enter the parameters in the equity trading and place a trade. So then you'll think of automating this task. See, this test case needs to be covered in every release. Like the application has to work around the year. So it cannot happen that just for 4 months you tested the equity trading functionality and rest of the time you ignored this functionality. It might happen that say a change that you did in some of the other trading, like say for example, the trading application also caters to insurance policies. So it shouldn't happen that if it's a shared code, then the changes made to the insurance policy functionalities has affected the equity trading also. So that is why you need something called as it's called as regression testing. So what regression means is that you have to test the same functionality again. So for these utilities, you need automation testing. Moving on to various testing methods. So we have something called as static testing. So what static testing means is, if you recall the diagram of the life cycle, so what we did in the requirement analysis phase, or what questions we asked in the requirement analysis phase, the clarification provided by the client, or the changes done by the client. So all of these, they qualify under static testing. Like you don't dynamically execute something, or you don't have to open any application, any tool for static testing. That's what it means. Now, dynamic testing. So dynamic testing covers unit testing, integration testing, and system testing. So and we'll visit these types of testing in the next slides. So what dynamic testing means is the user actually opens the application, he executes these workflows on his own, and uh, provides various inputs and observes the output. So that's what you mean by dynamic testing. What does black box testing mean? Now, in black box testing, the tester or the QA engineer does not focus on how the things are running behind or in the background. What does the trading application do or a video conferencing application do to launch a video or to detect the user or to detect a face of a user? What he needs to see is that he has clicked on the video conferencing button and the camera and microphone turns on. That is all what he verifies over here. Moving on to white or glass box testing, what it means is the user has access to some kind of code or the code that is running behind. He knows the structure of the code or the way the application is coded. So over here, he checks various input paths. Like he knows that once I have, so he knows the way the equity trading window is designed. He knows that only after entering the stock exchange fee, you can enter the government fee, or say the government fee might be auto-populated. Like the government has set a limit of like say the government will be charging 1% of the trade for XYZ amount. So if he is trading worth 100 rupees, then the value 1 will be directly populated in the government fee text box. So he knows all this workflow, and that is how he executes his workflow, like looking at the code, running it through various paths. So he might enter, say, zero amount in the text box, or he might run it through, some odd figures or say alphabets. So that's how he tests the output. Now we'll come to various levels of testing. So when we say levels of testing, all of these levels are kind of embedded in the test execution phase. So in test execution phase, what all happens is, say you have the unit or component testing first. So unit or component testing is done by the developer. So say a developer is working on implementing the logic for the trading application. The logic has to work on addition of 3 fees. So he will test the addition of this fee and the submission of the trade, whether it happens successfully or no. He should be able to add 10 plus 10 plus 10, and it should result to 30. And the same amount, 30, should be reflected on the stock market. When we say integration testing, what it means is he tests. It can be done by a developer also. It can be done by a QA engineer also, or a test engineer. So once the trading application is completed, say the module for equity trading, or say module for stock trade, module for bond trading, or say mutual fund trading, all of these modules, all of these components are integrated together, and then the test is run on each of them. Like say for example, if the equity, say there are 2 functionalities linked to each other. One is the equity trading window, and the next second one is the dashboard for the user. What it means is, after he has placed say certain X amount of equity trades or bond trades, he has to see, it has to reflect on his dashboard. So what it means is these 2 applications or these 2 functionalities inside the application are linked to each other. So only when he places the trade worth 30 rupees or say 300 rupees, only then this will reflect on his dashboard. So this is what is involved in integration testing. You have to integrate the components and test. Now integration testing is done in 2 ways. It can be a top-down approach or a bottom-up approach. It depends on how complex or how easy or how simple the system is. Usually the testing has to be done from the simple to the complex components. Then comes system testing. System testing involves a full-fledged testing, which is carried out by specialized testing teams. So over here, they try all sorts of valid, invalid, positive, negative inputs on the application, and they observe the output that it gives. So they'll enter alphanumeric characters in the fees. They will enter invalid characters or say German characters in the names, and then try to submit the trade. So it shouldn't happen that the trade crashes, or even if it doesn't execute, it has to give you a right error message. Like say for example, if you enter special characters in name field, so it should give you an error message that you have entered invalid characters. Please enter only alphabets, that way. Then comes the acceptance testing. So acceptance testing purely means that this is usually done by the product teams or the business analysts or the people who are involved in relaying the requirements to the development team. Or it can be done by client also at times in the industry. So the prime motive of this testing is that, have I got what I have asked for? Like if the person had asked for the equity trading, it should not happen that he has been given a mutual fund trading screen. So that's what he sees. Or say if he has asked for an error message that you have entered invalid characters, but we are, or say the testing team is, or the development team has entered that you have entered wrong characters. So there's a disparity between what he had asked for and what he has got. So that's what you mean by acceptance testing. Now, what do you mean by alpha testing? So alpha testing is done by teams who are external to the development team. So they kind of provide their feedback on the application, whether it is meeting the required standards or no, whether it is usable or no, how easy it is to use, things like these. Then comes the beta testing. So beta testing is something like you have, say your salon application. You have launched a new salon, and say you have shared the application with, say, your family and friends, like the close-knit people who will give you feedback on this application. So over here, what is expected out of these set of people is they enter the real world, scenarios or real world data in the application, like as they would use in a normal scenario, and then they provide their feedback. The feedback can be like, say for example, a transition from one menu to another is taking quite a while. It's taking 5 seconds to load another menu. So that is a feedback given, that might be a feedback given to you. So then you will go back to your team and say that it's taking like 10 milliseconds to transition from one menu to another, from the home screen to the block screen. So I want it reduced to 5 milliseconds. So these are kind of the inputs given in beta testing. Here we'll take a case study. So this case study relates to two very important terms that you'll come across in software testing. One is verification. Verification means what? Like checking or substantiating whether the outcome or the output you're seeing is correct or no. And validation means whatever you are seeing, whether is it expected or unexpected, valid or invalid, desired or undesired. Like say for example, I have a test case which says that verify Vishal Mundlye is stored as employee number 1 in the database. Now you can see that the correct value should reflect Vishal space Mundlye and employee ID 1. It cannot have Mundlye comma Vishal. It cannot have Neil Armstrong, which is totally incorrect. Though the name is valid, like the first name comma last name, the entry is incorrect. So that's what you mean by verification and validation. We'll visit some of the worst case scenarios. Like say you had the problem of in the year 2000 that it was called the Y2K problem. Now what it means is that the logic that was coded in various systems across the world, it interpreted the change of year only based on the last 2 digits. Like if the year changed from 91 to 92, it meant it is 1991 and 1992. So that way, it did not consider the first two digits or the complete four digits. So that is why when after 1999, December 1999, when January 1, 2000 was the year, all this or the major systems in the world, they switched it to 1900, which is wrong. So they ended up spending a couple of days fixing this problem. A couple of transactions went haywire, and a lot of mess related to that. Another major or devastating example can be, it happened with one of the major investment banks in the US, that there's something called a security exchange fee. Now this fee was some X amount called as 16.9 per million principal in 2010. And it was supposed to change to, like the government updated it to, or the SEC updated it to $19.2 per million starting from January 2011. Now, what it means is if you trade worth $10 million, then the SEC should receive $192 for this trade. But what happened is this requirement went unnoticed by the development team and the quality assurance team. So the SEC ended up receiving 16.9 or say $169 itself for the $10 million trade. So then they levied heavy penalties on this bank. And this happened for consecutive 2 to 3 days till the actual reason was found out. So imagine the kind of inconvenience that happens to the customers or even the bank. Now, all of you might be familiar with Apple. Now, Apple, when it launched the Apple Maps in competition with Google Maps, so they ended up showing, train stations in middle of the ocean, middle of the sea. They started showing tourist spots or bus stations where there was none expected. So this was kind of a result of, insufficient testing or incorrect data matching. So that way. Now we'll move towards the latest trends in software testing. So all of you must be very well versed with the mobile testing. So mobile testing involves your iOS testing, testing of apps based on Androids, iPads, tablets. These days we have like many of the transactions in our regular daily routine. We do it on our handheld devices. So testing of these devices and the applications compatible with these devices is something that is in trend, and you should look forward to. Then comes the big data or database testing. A quick highlight or a quick introduction about big data. Big data is something or a system that generates massive amount of data. Like say for example, if you want the healthcare records of a certain patient for last 10 years. I mean, I know in the Indian context, we don't have electronic medical records, or we hardly have electronic medical records. But say, for example, if it's a Western economy, then there you might have a patient's last 10 years data. So analyzing this data for last 10 years and doing this for every other patient in the hospital and then drawing conclusions out of it. So this involves a lot of databases, a lot of servers, and a lot of frameworks to test. So this is something you can really look forward to in your career. Then we come to scripting language, like learning a scripting language. So learning a scripting language comes to your help when you really want to pursue automation testing, or there is something called as infrastructure testing. It involves you will be creating various scripts or various programs to run these automation scripts, and that's what we mean by open source automation tools. Like there are various open source freely available tools that the companies these days are leveraging for testing. So it involves, like for example, Selenium, robot automation framework, which is a Python based framework. So over here you need some scripting skills, like a Python or a shell script or a Ruby script. Then you can look forward to something called as freelancing in software testing. Say even in your, so now that you are getting introduced to software testing, if you want to pursue it as a career, say, and like you want to know where to start from, there are various online tutorials available, or say, various resources over the internet. And as well, there are various companies allowing you to perform some freelancing in software testing. Like say, an application might be shared with you over the internet, and you'll be asked to test this application, and so you'll be paid on a hourly basis or a day basis, that way. So that is something you can look forward to. Now, with the mobile testing comes a critical aspect, or with the data, or even the big data aspect. What is important is the security of these applications, or security of your say, if you're using a chat application or you're using a trading application on your cell phone. So uh, what is the key factor over here is the security of this data. Like over your cell phone, it shouldn't happen that your data is leaked to some of the service providers or to hackers. So testing of this aspect is very much in demand. Now we come to the career paths in software testing that you can look forward to. So if you are in a pure testing skill set, so you can start from the entry position is usually a test engineer for a QA, like a quality assurance person. So from test engineer, you proceed to a test analyst. Now the time frame for a test engineer is something around, say, 2 to 3 years from your starting. From 3 to 5 years, or say 3 to 6 years, the role is somewhere like a test analyst. So the responsibility is the area of testing that you'll be doing. All of these changes as you move up the ladder. Uh, from 6 to 8 years, you can transition to a test lead, and so on and so forth, as a test manager and several other management roles. Now, if you are interested in a development skill set also, excuse me, if you want a mix of a skill set, testing coupled with development, then there is a position called as software engineer in test. So over here, you will be developing various scripts for various testing various infrastructure, or developing automation frameworks for testing various applications, be it web applications, mobile applications, or database testing applications. Then you move on to being a test specialist. Test specialist or a test architect is someone who looks into the architecture of a certain area of expertise. Like, I can be an architect for mobile testing, or I can be an architect or a specialist in implementing automation framework for database testing, that way. If you are interested in the business aspect of software testing, or how the requirements are gathered, or you're good at analyzing requirements, you're good at relaying these requirements, so then you can switch on to the track of business analyst, and then a product owner. So you will be on the client side, or you will be the one who will be issuing requirements, or designing requirements, or designing data architecture for your client, or say or your own company. And then there are various senior management roles, vice president, delivery leads, chief technology officers, and so on and so forth, that you'll come across. If you are interested in future or further education in software testing, so these courses are identified as a software engineering across the world. So you have certain universities listed over here, like Carnegie Mellon or Rochester Institute or Texas Arlington. So you can check out these programs. These are like the sample ones that I've documented. You'll find a host of them online. If during your course of software testing career, if you want to pursue certain certifications which carry a lot of weightage, as per it increases your industry value, it is a very good add-on, very good value add to your resume. then these are the certain key certifications that you can pursue. So the leading institutes are like Quality Assurance Institute, the International Software Testing Board, and so these certifications have their, what do you call, a certain level of maturity or a role maturity. Like say the analyst certification, you cannot give it if you are an entry level person in the field of software testing. If you have just an experience of 1 year and say you have done your whatever, graduation in engineering or uh, MSc or whichever field, so it carries its own requirements. So you might want to visit these requirements and then during your career plan for these certifications. Next is a very important aspect for you to find out if you belong to software testing or if you want to go with software testing. If you like to explore large and complex systems, mobile applications, workflow applications, client server technologies, multi-tier applications, then software testing is for you. If you're good at analyzing or finding root cause of a issue, if you are like vocal about regular inconsistencies, incongruities that you find around in life, daily life, and say like a basic one, like if you're traveling by a cab and if the taxi driver is rude to you, so immediately what you do is you put your feedback on the taxi booking application. So or if there's any issue with the taxi booking application, then you share your feedback with the application or the company. So if you have such qualities, then yes, software testing is something that you would love to, or you thoroughly enjoy. Experience, at least from a decade long experience in software testing, I have listed down a couple of these insights. The very important thing in software testing is first list down the objective, like the purpose of software testing, or what are you going to test, what is your aim in testing. If you are testing a video conferencing app, just list out the objective, that I have to verify this app, or this app is verified for web application to be run on Chrome on so and so version. That's the first contact point or the first entry point. The second is every test case should have a expected result of it. It cannot happen that you just document your observed result. The observed result can be a failure, it can be any crash or anything. What you need is the expected result that is required. Then simply do not log a defect in your application. Walk the developer through it. It has to be a constructive criticism. It should see what you are working for, or what both of your teams, like the development team and the software quality assurance team, is working towards improving the quality of the application. So the logging of a defect or observation of a malfunction in the system, it shouldn't be taken personally by the developer, or it shouldn't be taken personally by the quality assurance member. So that's what it means. Then summarizing your testing in a crisp way. So whenever you're sharing your test results with somebody or your client, they are not concerned with, say you have executed 400 test cases. They do not have the time and resources to go and observe all those 400 test cases to see what results you have gotten. So all those 400 test cases, you need to summarize in 4 to 5 crisp points. So that is what the aim of summarizing is. Another important thing, never trust a developer. So it always happens that you have, say, even if you are building something or you are designing something, it is obvious that you are going to have affinity towards it. You won't find faults in it. So even if you are designing a presentation for your college project, so it will happen that you don't find faults, but when you share it with your professors for a review, then they will come up with a review comments for it. That's what it means. And it doesn't mean that don't trust a developer. It doesn't mean don't trust him on a personal level. It means trust on a professional level. And last thing is, testing does not mean you have to be critical. Again, it has to be a constructive criticism. Some influential names that you can follow in software testing. These are the gentlemen you can trace on the internet, you can find on LinkedIn, you can check for their websites, their blogs. They will be really helpful for you in your future in software testing. Lastly, wrapping up our presentation, what does CitiusTech, my company, do? So CitiusTech, first of all, Citius means something that is faster, something that is agile, something that is nimble in Latin. CitiusTech is a IT healthcare service provider. We are primarily into application development, be it web, mobile, cloud, maintenance and support services, quality assurance and test automation, healthcare, business intelligence, design and development, which is my field, which I'm leading a project in, and the healthcare technology consulting. So that's primarily what CitiusTech does. These are certain sources that were used for the presentation as a reference for you. And lastly, happy testing.
Thank you so much, Mr. Vishal, for such an insightful session. Let's open the session for question answer. So I would request all the colleges, if you have any questions, any student has any question, just come in front of the camera. I'll unmute you and you can ask the question directly to the master, or you can put the questions on the chat box, which is there on the screen. So you may have to stop the screen sharing to see the questions coming on the chat box.
Okay, no problem. I'll do that right away.
Jain College, I have put you on the unmute mode. Kindly, if at all there is any question coming in from any student, you can ask the question directly to the master. You are on the unmute mode. Jain College, Jai Hind College. Any representative from Jai Hind College? So meanwhile, let's take the question that...
Sorry, I'm not able to hear the person speaking, but I can see a chat and a question on the chat. Do you want me to answer that?
Yeah, you may go ahead with that.
Okay, so I have a question from SB Jain, Nagpur. Hello, Samir. He wants to know if anything goes wrong at the client side, is the testing team responsible or the developer team? So there can be a scenario that, say for example, in our session we took an example of the video conferencing app. So if the client has not asked for a requirement of enabling the chat for a IE browser or supporting it for a IE browser, and in this case, if somebody launches say the entire cycle is over and somebody has launched the video conferencing app on the IE browser, and if it crashes unexpectedly, so in this case, no, the development and testing team is not to be blamed. It's basically, I wouldn't call it a blame. They are nurse of this error. But as the point of constructive criticism or a feedback or a 360-degree feedback that we raised was that the testing team is aware about various environments already used as an industry standard across the board. So what matters is you go back to the client asking that whether you want to support Internet Explorer or no, or if not, then what error message should we develop or should we code so that if a person launches the video conferencing app on Internet Explorer, we should see that. So that way you can go back to the client side. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I hope that answers Sameer's question from SB Jain. Let me take one question from Shishadipuram. I'll just put Shishadipuram on an unmute mode. Hello, I can see the lady there, Shishadipuram First Grade College. If there is any question, kindly just come in front of the camera and ask.
No questions, sir.
You have a question there?
Oh, no.
All right. So I think there is a question on the chat box coming in from DY Patil College of Engineering, Akruti.
One sec. I am not able to see it at the moment. Give me one sec. I'm sorry, Abul. At the moment, I just see the question from Samir, which I have answered.
Yeah, she has put it directly to me. I'll just put it on the chat box. She has privately sent it to me. Just wait. I'm just putting it. So there is there's a student called Harsh from DY Patil. He wants to ask the question.
Okay. So the question over here is, to what extent do bottlenecks help in testing? So I would reframe the question to saying that how do bottlenecks affect testing? So it might be a case that, say for example, you have a trading application. So this trading application there can be, say, like 100,000 users for using this application, and there might be constraints. So over here, what you need to support 100,000 users and their trades is the respective number of say web application servers, or say we can take an example of web application servers. So these servers, now say this trading application works in across India. Now when these applications work across India, you can get a request from Delhi also. There can be 5,000 users from Delhi, there can be 20,000 users from Mumbai, there can be 50,000 users from Chennai, and so on. So over here, the web application server might be placed in Mumbai, say if the stockbroker belongs to Mumbai. So it cannot happen. Now the time taken, or say the load coming from Chennai, if it is higher than Mumbai and Delhi together. So from Delhi and Mumbai you had 25,000 users, whereas from Chennai you have 50,000 users. So if the servers are just located at one location, Mumbai, then it would cause a lot of performance overheads or a lot of strain on these servers. So usually the approach that is taken, say from the development side, is that you have to have load balancers for these web servers. So you can have load balancers which cater to, so these load balancers are kind of sub web application servers which might be placed in Chennai, like they can handle the traffic from Chennai, or they can manage the traffic. If the traffic is higher from Delhi, they can manage the traffic over there. So the way you have to test it is, or say a performance tester would test it, he will have various test buds, or say we call it as test tubs, which would simulate users from one respective location and keep on bombarding the application. So that's where you'll find these bottlenecks. So if at all the load balancer, see, it has to balance load. If the servers are placed at two locations like Mumbai and Chennai, it has to balance the load. Like the 75,000 users have to be balanced across two servers. It cannot happen that 60,000 users are using the Chennai server and the rest, just the 15,000 are using the Mumbai server. That would overload the system. So that's what can be an example of bottlenecks, and that's what a performance tester would identify. Now I have a couple other questions also from SBJ and Nagpur again. Please explain about software testing for small Android apps. So for small Android apps, you have various app testing browsers. There are certain names that I'll share with you after this session. I'll put it up on the vBind website and I'll share it with you. But there are various testing browsers and simulators for Android, iOS, all kinds of apps, tablets, and iPads. So I'll get back to you on that question. The next question is from Karunya University. How to test the design by sending information through optical fiber? Okay. Okay. So this aspect of testing, this is kind of a pseudo software testing. It has it's over here. The important thing for this particular question is classified under hardware testing. Like say you have various tool analyzers, or say you have various industrial automation tools, or say PLC machines. Testing of these PLC machines, or the inputs provided to these hardware systems, say the analog meters, or the digitized meters that you use for these. So it comes under hardware testing. But I'll surely get back to you with the answer for this after the session. Next question is tools used in testing and which are used for manual and for automated testing. Which testing method more efficient and effective in automated and manual testing method? Or I guess the user, the person wants to evaluate automated and manual testing over here. So first of all, I'll answer the question of the tools. In manual testing, you don't have any specific tool for testing. What you have is your own intellect, as well as certain tools that you use as aids for testing. So say if you're using if you're testing a database, you're testing it manually. Like the way one tests it manually is, say if there are stored procedures developed to load this data from, say, text files into the database as per some logic that is defined by the client. So the way you have to test this is you have to manually design a query or a SQL based query that will achieve the same output as the stored procedure that the developer has designed. So the tool or the aid that you have over here is your, say if you're using a Microsoft SQL Server or Oracle or any other database. So that's the tool that you'll be using, or say in this context, the SQL language, programming language, or PLSQL or TSQL is your aid for testing. Now, for the same test case, so once I have gotten the, say I want to load from, say I want to load 100,000 records from raw files like text files into database. So once I design my query as per my understanding, as per the logic given from the client, if I am able to load the same 100,000 records from, if I'm able to achieve the output as 100,000 records from the raw files, so that is where you'll conclude that your end result or your testing matches with that of the developer's output. Now, automation testing. Now, for if you want to automate this workflow, so this was a very basic functionality. So say like this, your system needs to validate, say from XYZ source, you get every month these 100,000 records. So every month you won't be spending your time designing a query or testing the same query or even like rerunning the same query. What you'll do is, say there are tools like Selenium, which is a framework used for testing. So now Selenium tool is automated testing framework which works with your Python language, it works with C#, it works with Java, several other languages. So what I would do is, if I have to run this test, say like 10 times a day, 12 months at a stretch, I'll design an automated script based on Python, which will connect the database. It will take the input from the raw files. It will fire this query and it will verify the output of those 100,000 records. So that's how I automated the process. So over here, in your question, what you mean by effective and efficient? So first you have achieved the like the exact action or the correct action that you wanted, or the output you have achieved using your query. Now, because you cannot keep on firing this query day in, day out, and you need efficiency in testing, and as well you want to move on to testing other aspects of the database or the loading of data, you have made this process efficient by automating it. I hope this answers your question. Now, the next question that the person has is, what is the role of moderator in the review process? Yeah, that's a very good question. So there are various kinds of reviews. So the review process starts from the requirement analysis phase itself. So we call it something called as BRDs, which is the business requirement documents, or specs, which is short form of specifications. So a moderator is some person or experienced person in the team who conducts this review. So the QA team, or as well the development team also, they have a stand-up meeting or a call or a meeting over the web to go over these requirements or walk them through these requirements. So what happens over here is these requirements are reviewed or brainstormed within the team, and then whatever the understandings or learnings are broken down by the team, the moderator documents these. So it's kind of a role, or any person can be a moderator. Even a test engineer can be a moderator. So this person will break down the minutes of this meeting, and he will share it with the client team so that the client business analyst or the product owner can enumerate these on the specifications. Like, the aim of the requirements should be to simplify these requirements. Like, if I want the video conferencing app to be designed for web application, web browsers, or say mobile or desktop app, this is a very vague and generic statement. So when breaking this down, it would mean that for web browsers, it has to work on IE 7, 8, 9, 10, or for Chrome, it has to work for A, B, C versions, so on and so forth. So that's the role of the moderator. Now over here, in the review process, the review is done at a test planning stage also. So when the tester or QA engineer has designed his test cases, he passes on these test cases for his functionality to some other tester or some other person, or say the lead, to review this particular test case. And that's where he gets feedback on his test cases, say whether he has covered all the scenarios or no, or whether he has missed something, whether he has missed testing the logic or the scenarios for logic. Sorry. So that's the role of a that's how a peer review is done, and that's what the role of a moderator is. I hope that answers your question. Then we move on to the next question: when should testing be stopped? So that's again a very good question. So when in the test planning phase or the test strategizing phase, we have a document called as test plan or a test strategy document. So in this document, you or the test lead or the QA manager, he or she always documents what are the entry and exit criteria of a testing. So say my exit criteria will say that in the database testing application itself, say that once I have to receive data from 3 files, and I have to see whether each file has say 100,000 records, and the data and count of these records for all the fields, they might be having some 100 odd fields. So the data and count of all these fields matches between the target table and the source files. So once I'm done validating all my test cases, I'll list down that once the data for all the 3 tables matches between the source and the target, that's where the testing will stop. Now, if at all, if the client provides you with a 4th file, So then you have to re-estimate, the whole cycle starts again. So you have to re-estimate for that requirement. Like if you want to test that fourth file and say the fourth file is worth, say 2 gigabytes, and it has some, say 1 million records with 350 odd fields. So you have exited your first testing criteria. You have passed your first testing criteria and delivered the code to the client with 3 files. Now, if the fourth file is being provided, then you re-estimate for the testing effort. You go back to the client and with the estimates, or say if you need some more resources to test that. So that's how you'll arrive at the test, when to stop the testing. Next question is from SB Jain, Professor Pankaj. How do you foresee the future of software testing market? Sir, the future of software testing in India and abroad is very much bright and in demand. Like if you noted the trends that I had shared in the presentation, for mobile testing, for big data testing, there's a huge demand across North America, across Europe, across various domains also. Financial domain being the important one, healthcare being the second important one. Now, from my healthcare experience, I can tell you that healthcare industry in the US is worth $20+ billion industry. So, and this industry involves your insurers, it involves the healthcare givers, like the physicians, doctors, various hospitals, and various, and the patients, obviously. So these three are the key in, say, US healthcare market. So with such a lot of demand and rising number of devices, from mobile, or say your Fitbits or your health apps, the demand for testing is huge. It's really huge. I mean, I can share some blogs or say share some research papers with you, on VBind website that would help you get an idea of this.
Great. Sorry to interrupt, Mr. Vishal. I hope you are not getting late for it, because we are already running out of time for the question answer. So, do you mind taking one last question, or shall we conclude the session?
I'll take one last question, and rest of the questions I'll be more than happy to answer on the website, at a later stage.
Great. So you can probably, just share your Twitter ID, or, just come online on VBind to answer the questions. And I would request all the colleges, if you have any more questions beyond this, then just log in, just, ask your faculty member to log into his own profile and ask the question directly to the master. So over to you. Over to you, Mr. Vishal. You'll be taking.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that is all from my side. If you guys, I hope the presentation, the delivery, the content was appealing to you. If you have any feedback, any questions, anything, and about the tools, the question about the tools, yes, I will get back to you on the website. So for any queries, you can, my details are shared with VBind. You can contact me on VBind, and as well Twitter. So do let me know your feedback. I had a good time, conveying my thoughts to you.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks
a
so
lot,
much.
VBind, and thanks a lot to the colleges also for attending.
Thank you so much, Mr. Vishal, for enlightening students on this, core subject of software testing. I'm sure you have showed a way forward to a lot of students present here. I would request all the colleges to round of applause for Mr. Vishal. I would request all the colleges to go for a round of applause for Mr. Vishal.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much, Mr. Vishal, once again for your time. I would request all the colleges to be seated. I'll just showcase how you need to download the certificates for this session. I'll be sharing my screen to show you how you need to download the certificate. So you need to go onto VBind's website. If you have not signed up yet, you need to go on the sign up button. Register yourself as a student. So there are few students who are registering with as a faculty member. So kindly, I would request all the students to get registered as students so that you can avail the certificates for today's session. Once you sign up here, you need to log in. I'll just showcase how you need to download the certificate with a demo login. This is your dashboard once you log into the website. Click on certificates. You will see software testing today's session here. You need to select that. You can see the number of participant colleges here. Select your professor name, your department name from here, and it will take you to the quiz section. The quiz will be uploaded by 1:30 today, that is in next half an hour. So I would request all the students to come online, answer the question, and avail the certificate for the session. Let me show you how the certificate would look like. So this is how the certificate will gets downloaded on your desktop, and it would be in a PDF format. So thank you once again, all the students, for your time, and I would request all the faculty members to get your students registered so that you get all the updates on the latest trends on different topics, as well as the topics that are going to come in the near future. So there is a question here on the screen by one of the college, SB Jain Nagpur is asking for the presentation here. So for this, there is a precise VBind enable classroom, which is the pro version of VBind. I would request all the faculty members to just get in touch with the campus team here, so that our campus team can enlighten you on what this VBind enable classroom is, so that students can get access to all the presentations by the masters. Thank you so much once again.